Hey guys, what's going on? It's Clever Tiki, and in this video we're going to cover PHP variables in more detail. Just a quick review, variable names must start with a $sign, followed by the variable name, and the variable name must start with a letter or an underscore. We assign a value to the variable using the equal operator, and we end the statement with a semicolon. Variable names in PHP are case sensitive. Alright, let's do some coding here. Open up with PHP tags. I'm gonna first of all define a constant named br and place the value of it as an HTML tag br because I'm gonna be using this throughout the video. Okay, and then I'm gonna define some variables. All these variables are going to have a string value. Just gonna put console names as my values. Okay, so all of these three variables are different variables because variable names in PHP are case sensitive. And this is an example, so you guys can clearly see that they're in fact different. So this is the output, and as you can see, Atari, Sega, and Nintendo, they're all outputting different values because those are different variables which hold all these different values. Okay, so that's how that works. And now let me just give you an example of a function inside the variable value. So you can do something like this, and square root is the square root of a number, and we can use that function inside the value, and then that would output 4 because that's the square root of 4. We can also use something called a ternary expression, and if you don't know how that works, here's a quick overview. So first we have a conditional expression here on the left side, followed by the question mark. If that condition evaluates to true, then expression 2 is going to be our value. Otherwise, expression 3 is going to be the value, which is false. And those two are separated by the colon. Okay, so we can say something like age equals 33, and then let's assign the result to a variable called eval. I'm going to say eval equals, and then we're going to run that through the ternary logic expression. Here over 21. Here's your drink. And then the colon, in case the expression is false. You're not old enough. And then output the eval, and that will be equal to you're over 21. Here's your drink because the age is greater than 21. So that's another way to assign a value using a ternary expression. Now let me show you guys something called a variable variable. So variable is something as when we use a variable name in place of the variable name when we assign when we create the variable. So for example, our variable name holds a value of Sega, and so this will be the same thing as writing Sega equals whatever value is there, because when we write two dollar signs, the value of the name is placed inside of this variable. And so this will be the same thing as writing Sega equals 16-bit console. So now we have a new variable called Sega, and we can go ahead and output that. And let me use the BR tags here. And it's a 16-bit console, and now that we can see, we have a Sega variable. Okay, so that's how that works. Also, if we had an array named planets with a bunch of different planets, we can also use variable. So if we place planets and specify the key like 2 here, this would be the same thing as writing and actually assign a value to it, since Mars was the Roman god of war. So this would be the same as writing Mars equals Roman god of war, because we're specifying the array in place of the variable name, and then we use the key index 2, which is equal to Mars. So that would be Mars $Mars equals God of War. So that's another way of creating a variable with an array. Now let's go over referencing real fast. Referencing, you can think of it as making a copy of the source array. So if we create a variable named copy, and then we use the AND operator followed by the variable name, which is our source variable, and remember, name equals Sega, so copy is also going to be equal to Sega now. Okay, let's create a BR tag. So here, no wait, hold on one sec. Actually, let's output Mars here, because just to show you an example, Roman God of War is Mars. Just so you see that we have a new variable Mars. Okay, cool. And then, so I created the copy variable, and I created a reference to the name variable. Now the copy is going to have Sega as value because we referenced our original source, which has a value Sega. Okay, so now if we changed the source variable to something else, like Xbox One, for example, our copy would also change. So if I print out copy, it'll be equal to Xbox One. So you can see that whenever we change the source, our reference variable is also going to be changed. So that's how that works. Now, if we unset the source using the unset function, that variable would no longer exist. So if we try to print it out, we try to print out the source variable, notice undefined variable, which is what expected, but if we output the copy would still exist. So just keep in mind that whenever we change the value of the source variable, the copy, the reference variable also changes. But when we unset, when we delete the source variable, the copy, the reference still lives on. So that's how referencing works. Now, just a few functions to show you how the variables can be manipulated. So unset is one of the ways to basically undefine or unset the variables. Now, if I had the variables, some arrays here, let me just paste some. This is an associative array, and this is a numeric here below. And okay, so let's print them both out first of all. Named and print our numeric. And I'm also going to use the pre-tags to make it nicely formatted. Otherwise, they're kind of hard to read in the output. So do this real quick. Okay, so these are my arrays here. The first one is an associative array, and the second one is a numeric with numeric index keys. And I can use the function called unset to, just like we used it on the variable, we can unset specific array keys. So I can say unset named, and then I can just pick a key like car, for example, and then the car key would be unset. If I actually, okay, yeah, let me just unset it here. And then, as you can see, the car key disappeared from from the array output. So that's how that works, and we can do this on the numeric array as well. We can unset numeric, example, let's say 3, and that would unset our number 12, which was the value of the key 3. So that's how we can use the unset on the arrays. Now we can also use isSet function to check if the key is set, and we can do the ternary operator and say you have an income if it's set, otherwise you don't have any income, and print that out, you have an income. So echo if is, and basically what it does is if it checks if the income key exists inside the array named, and if it does, then the true value is set to the output. Otherwise, if we unset named income, then we're gonna have you don't have any income. So, and if I comment that out, you have an income. Okay, so that's how isSet works, and we can do this on a bunch of different key names as well as variable names. Now, there's also some functions to determine the data type of the array, like, for example, echo is array. You can check if the variable is array, and then do the same. I'm an array. I'm not an array. Here, okay, I'm an array because that variable is an array. Just do the BR text here real fast. Okay, cool. All right, so is array checks if it's an array, and there's a bunch of other functions to determine the value type of all the variables. Is array, is float, is int, is object, is bool, and is string. Now the get type will get us the type of that variable. So if I did echo get type named, that would be an array. Okay, and I just want to keep using these BR tags so you guys can read it easily here. Okay, array, and if get type was something else like name, which is a string variable, that would be a string type, string. So that's how you get the data type of the variable, and these are pretty useful. This will be pretty handy later on as you start getting more familiar with PHP and coding. Okay. Lastly, I just want to show you guys the scope inside the function and outside. So if we had a function, this would be local scope, meaning only variables, the variables that are created inside this function are only going to be accessible inside the function unless they are defined as global. And to define them global, we use the global key, and then we can assign the value to the global equals, I'm all over the place. Okay, so if I try to access the local variable outside the function, I would get a notice undefined variable because that variable is only accessible inside the local scope. It's not accessible in a global scope, which is outside the function. However, if I tried accessing the global variable, which was defined as global, you would say, oh, I first have to call the function. Yes, I forgot to call the function, my bad. So call the function, and now the variable local is undefined, but the global is defined, so it's outputting the value of the global variable because we defined it using the global keyword. So that's how variable scope works, and this concludes this video. I hope you guys found this useful. If you did, please share and like. It's really it would be really appreciated. Okay, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, Clever Techie out.